there's a problem of they don't want to turn up to OGMs or AGMs. And I think it's how you get continual feedback. I think having a position like that, you can have continual feedback
So it's
from...
only continual feedback of a certain group of people. You're not getting
Well,
continual feedback from the body.
well, being a representative, they'll be getting feedback
the
from their
HSU
friends
exec.
as well.
As of the HSU exec were voted in as
And surely
representatives.
focus groups save like so much of this logistical procedure that you have to go through. You know, you don't need to change the constitution to have focus groups, and that does exactly the same thing. But all your energy for the entire year, well, the majority of your presidential year would be to set up this new Senate.
I don't think it's the majority of my energy.
It would be doing.
Okay,
And this
I'm
is
sorry
why
guys,
we've got
I'm going to have to cut it there just because it's we're running over slightly. Is there any more questions? Okay, I'll do all three. So I'll do Zach first, Phil, and then Ellie. Try and keep it brief. People who are asking questions.
Some concern has been expressed about postgraduates feeling that the ASHU has let them down this year. So how do the presidential candidates propose addressing this for next year and beyond?
I think one of the really important and quite obvious things is that there is a slight restructure of the HSU. So rather than a specific postgraduate officer, there's an academic officer, and the way that these new roles are allocated means that all of the roles are for all of the students. They are representing all of the students. It's not just one person for the postgraduates, we're all here. I think that's the most important thing, and I think just getting that message across initially will really help people feel as if they are more involved.
There's actually a point in my manifesto that I put in. I tend to hold meetings with postgraduates. I will send out a message to the lecturer or to the postgraduate lecturer 2 weeks before I intend to hold the meeting at some point after postgraduate lectures in that week, to allow postgraduates to decide and to make plans if they want to attend, to be able to stay later in that certain week where I plan to hold the meetings after their lectures. So that's what I plan to do, just to catch them after lectures. That's the best time to catch a postgraduate, is catch them after lectures if you've informed them beforehand, so you're not inflicting on what is a busy life. They're older people with families, with jobs, with real lives out there doing things. They don't want to have to hang around to hear a bunch of 21-year-olds asking them what they think on going to the Roxy for a night out. You know, it's not their thing. So just giving the people who want to talk the opportunity to do so.
Can I expand on that? I've spoken to several postgraduates who are unhappy with the removal of the role. However, I want to wait for the next strategic plan to come through to see what it says about that. And if it doesn't, I will be holding a consultation if I was elected in the first 2 weeks of the new year, just like Ashley, to go after their lectures, be in there, give them forms, tell them how they can come. I would also extend opening times on certain days to include postgraduates so they can come to the office. Postgraduates are 45% of Heath Rock. They're clearly underrepresented by the union, and that really needs to be looked at with more events, more interaction, more notice boards. If they're on the internet, like I was talking to one mature student the other day who didn't have a laptop and didn't know how to get a laptop, so I guided her through that. So I feel that I'd be positioned well as a person to help that.
Can I? Is that all right? Yeah, the restructuring of the union is interesting. There has been comments about maybe letting down our postgraduates by not having this officership. From the last 2 years, I think actually both mature and postgraduate students officers would agree that the role has been a bit mixed. You don't know really whose responsibility something is. For example, like a postgraduate event, if that doesn't happen throughout the year, is that the event officer's fault or the postgraduate officer's fault? That's happened a lot. That has happened a hell of a lot, and no one is taking the responsibility. So the removal of what is really just a tick box position, or it has been for a few times, it's been a bit of a sort of, we're listening to our postgraduates, therefore. Obviously, lots of the officers, for example, we've had Julie Middleton and John C. Ross. They've both done things within the union, but it's not being able to connect it to the postgraduate thing. So what's happened now with the restructuring is that each executive officer has to make sure that they look after their postgraduates. So if there's events, there has to be postgraduate events, or has to be an emphasis on postgraduates. If there's communication structures, there has to be an emphasis on the postgraduates. I think this will really just include them more than it has been before. I mean, remember, this year where they feel like they've not been listened to has been a year where we've had a postgraduate students officer. Maybe it's something to look at, maybe it's something to have consultations over. But I think it's willing to give this new structure a try. I think from my experience, it seems to be the right solution. But we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I've gathered some feedback from postgraduates quite recently. There was an Erasmus community event which was 2 nights ago, which was held in Congress, which is the last event because some Erasmus students will be actually going soon, and that included postgraduates because a lot of postgraduates are international. A lot of postgraduates do work, they have working lives, they have families, and they make friends in their small masters seminars or groups to these people who are eventually leaving. I think they voiced that there should be a shift of emphasis between events which are aimed towards undergraduates and events which are aimed more at a community atmosphere, which postgraduates think that they would like to get really. They'd like to get to know people personally rather than go to an en masse event. They'd like to not go to events which are specifically, I wouldn't say specifically for drinking, but they're quite deterred at the fact that undergraduates are going out because a lot of undergraduates will get drunk at this event. They want to go to an event so they can talk about what they love, like philosophy or politics or their home interests or their personal interests at events all day long, really.
Anyone else?
Jump in? Or
I'd just say that really trying to get communication channels with postgraduates. So like Ashley said, having a meeting with them after their lectures, because a lot of older OGMs are at lunch times generally, and so they don't like, if you're not in like the library, there's no reason why you'd be in at that time if you're a postgraduate. So I think that's like there's a lot of students I think at ESOP who do feel underrepresented, not just postgraduates but also like Jesuit Scholastic and the guys who live in Allen Hall. I think that there's a lot of things like that could be done and ways that we could form committees with them, and they could as a form of constant feedback from them to what they want, because I can honestly say, like a lot of people say postgraduates don't want these type of events, they want these type of events, but I think that each year it's different. You have different postgraduates coming in. There are some postgraduates who really like to get involved with a lot of the undergraduate events. Like we see a lot of people at like the General Union events that are postgraduates. Well, not a lot, but you see some. But there's some people who just won't want to get involved in that. And so I think there needs to be a greater provision of something for everyone, really.
Shall we move on?
Yes, just a practical question. Will Alex Hackett still be running the paper if he gets the job for VP?
No. Simple answer. In fact, I won't have any control over the paper as a union officer. It will be a new election, and during this, of course, there is an acting editor, which is there, which is already written into our constitution, as has been there since the paper first began. I would know nothing to do with the paper. No. It'd be hard to give up though.
Ellie?
People mentioned before that there might be an expansion of the college into the garden. I don't really see why this would be necessary, and it would just seem to be a waste of money, but who would be like for and against this?
Into the garden down there?
Somebody said that the library...
I think it's the building which annexes to the Alban Hall. I've spoken to the principal about that.
It's that area.
They actually think that that's going to go straight to the accommodation office. Obviously, we need to push. We should push
I mean,
to see
I
whether
can
we can get
clarify,
more space.
the college has bought the building next to halls. The building that's attached to the halls at the back, they've bought that. That's now in the college's possession. So what future student unions hopefully will be looking at is pushing for space and facilities within that for students.
Yeah. I don't think there's any plans for the garden being.
No, the garden is staying.
It's too nice. Can't get rid of the garden.
I'd just say, as far as the HSU is going to be representing students, I think it absolutely depends on what they want. I think we need to listen to what the students want, give them all the information, let them make an informed decision, and then we'll campaign on their behalf.
Has anyone any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. Vote opens Friday after hustings, please come to hustings, which is people's speech, and I'll see you then.